Namaskar and welcome to Sansad Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching our show Perspective, where we bring you detailed analysis of key national and international issues. Today we're going to discuss and analyze the crypto question. While Bitcoin started more than a decade ago in 2008, total market capitalization of all cryptocurrencies was only $20 billion in early 2017. This went up to $289 billion in next 3 years, and thereafter exploded to reach a peak of $2.9 trillion in November 2021. In the last 3 months, however, it has once again witnessed a sharp decline. As of today, the total number of cryptocurrencies is at 17,697, and the total number of crypto exchanges is at 462. Currently, there is no regulation or any ban on the use of cryptocurrencies in India. The Reserve Bank of India's order banning banks from supporting crypto transaction was reversed by the Supreme Court order of March 2020. While the RBI has repeatedly underlined its strong view against cryptocurrencies, saying these pose a serious threat to the macroeconomic and financial stability of the country, Government of India is working on a legislation for regulation of this sector. Finance Minister, in fact, in her budget speech this year, also proposed to introduce a digital currency in the coming financial year, for which RBI is soon expected to carry out pilot studies. Today, we're going to discuss and analyze all aspects of this crypto questions in our episode of Perspective, and we are joined by a distinguished panel for this. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with Shubhmoy Bhattacharjee, who is joining us here in the studio, consulting editor, The Business Standard. Welcome, Shubhmoy. We're also joined by two more experts. Ms. Aruna Sharma is with us. She's a member digitization committee of RBI, and Satvik Vishwanath is also with us, co-founder and CEO of Unocoin. Welcome both Satvik and Ms. Sharma there as well. I'll begin with you, Shubhmoy, before we delve into the deeper analysis. What's the current situation? Where do we stand? As I was saying, that the government is working on a legislation. The RBI has once again reiterated its stand. And of course, the cryptocurrency market representatives like Satvik are asking for a quick decision on that as well. On top of that, we're talking about a digital currency also being worked upon.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, like if you look at what the finance minister said in her budget speech, she did not legalize. What she said is that if anybody uses a virtual currency, virtual asset, those would be taxed, which more or less puts, surprised people because it was a very open-ended statement. And a couple of days later, the RBI governor made that comment that cryptos are worth less than a tulip. Now, what essentially it means is very clear. And the finance ministry and the government is absolutely right to say that we will be looking at, we can't be blind to technology. It's happening. We'll be looking at the ways ahead, and we'll be working on, as you just said, pilot projects and others would be taken on to see what and where it can be meshed in India's march towards digital currency.
Okay.
The central bank is absolutely right in saying that so long as it does not happen, I obviously as a central bank am the security provider for the currency that is in public. I will obviously not be saying that some other currency which has not been legalized, which has not been put into place, there's no law as yet, is therefore valid. I mean, people, the moment RBI gives even half a hint like that, people would immediately take positions. I mean, they are taking positions even now. But there will be more people who take positions and say, look, Mr. RBI, why didn't you tell us that what are the risks or what are the consequences? So RBI is saying, please, don't, short of saying that don't invest in it, RBI is saying, I'm not there.
Okay.
When results come in, when detailed analysis flows through, RBI will, like other central banks, will take a position. I mean, will be once it's rolled out, then it's then the point of rolling out. Then the RBI's position, obviously, you'll be seeing a difference. But right now, it's perfectly right. I mean, I consider, I don't think there's a contradiction. It's simply that both are taking positions exactly where they should be. So that there's no ambiguity.
And from their own perspective as well, RBI from the perspective of central bank and government, of course, from the governance perspective there, when we're talking about this being a sector with emerging technologies which of course, as the government and finance minister was also referring to, can be explored for utilization. Let's understand the RBI stand a little more, in a deeper way. Ms. Aruna Sharma is with us. Ms. Sharma, we have heard this from RBI time and again, that this is going to harm the macroeconomics. And as Shubhmoy was referring to that, of course, a central bank will have to take that sort of stand. But make us understand, why so staunch an opposition to cryptocurrencies from the RBI?
Please understand very clearly that RBI is talking about the digital currency, which will be the legal tender. And the moment you say legal tender, that is the right of the RBI. And right from the initiative stage, I have always been advocating that crypto is not a legal tender. Crypto is to be treated as a separate class in itself, and which in the budget speech, the finance minister has rightly said that the way the taxation has been set, it is equivalent to that of a gambling, but then its understanding is more like an asset. So what is needed is that we have to come up with a separate regulation for crypto, which is one of the portfolios for the investors.
Okay.
And if you look at the various studies which has gone across the globe, when for the people don't have a good alternative for savings, and in India it has happened that the saving rates, the interest rates have been sharply falling down, the people have shifted to another investment opportunities, which has gone in the terms of a crypto. The second thing, what is very important, is the informed decision, which comes under advertisement standards. So therefore, you have to inform the people that it is speculative, it is not a currency, and that is how it goes. So therefore, RBI is saying that if you start treating it as a currency, because here there is an opportunity of peer-to-peer lending and everything, there is a need of regulation. So they are putting a perspective that it is going to hit the macro and fiscal. But then there is another perspective which is happening across the globe. And if you see, I think the Singapore model is very clear. They came up very clearly as to what it is. It is speculative, and the advertisement has to be with informed decision of the investor. And second, it treated it as an asset class itself. And therefore, the regulations are emerging. So that is the way we will have to go, by distinguishing the two. Come up with a separate regulation for crypto, and it is very important so that you don't have fly-by-night operators.
Indeed.
And the like BACC, the crypto exchanges are forming like a self-regulation body, where they will have the key investors, where they will go about their investment portfolio. And that is what is important when we are moving ahead. So that is a kind of a class which is needed as we are proceeding. And that understanding has to be very clear. There are two separate products in two separate classes.
Okay. So what you're saying, Ms. Sharma, here is that cryptos can be or should be classified as assets and not currency. That's what RBI stand clearly is. Let's bring in Satwik here. Satwik, do you agree to this? Do you agree with this perspective? And of course, when Ms. Sharma says that as far as currency is concerned, it's a legal tender. And when it is a legal tender, it is the right of the central bank. In India's case, it is Reserve Bank of India.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I totally agree with it. So as of now, I mean, India is one of the highly regulated countries, especially when it comes to financial transactions. And it also regulates how the money moves out of the country and into the country, etc. as well. So where there are strict capital controls. So right now, I think the best approach that the crypto industry could take, and even for the government to take, the Reserve Bank of India to take, is to treat this like a digital asset. Which essentially means that the main utility of the cryptocurrency, which itself is free and fast transactions on the internet, so we won't be able to manifest that utility within India. But however, we will have to let the rest of the world use it for the main utility for which it was built, but we will only be able to monetize the appreciation in value. So this is how I am looking at it right now. But over a period of time, this could change, but this will be the first right step. First foot into the door now.
Okay. There seems to be a sort of an agreement in terms of both industry and the central bank there that cryptos should be treated as assets. That's seemingly the way forward. Something, the indications of which are coming in from the regulator as well as the government.
Yes, it's coming in. I mean, that is the indication, but that is where I'm slightly apprehensive.
Okay.
When you have an asset has to be denominated in certain currency. Now, the moment you have an asset and it's denominated, then obviously you are saying that there is a wormhole through which it comes into the currency. So whenever you trade, supposing there's today a non-deliverable forwards market in the asset, in a particular crypto asset on some of the exchanges, will that be viable? Will that be legal? I mean, these are issues that will have to be sorted out.
Okay.
The asset is there, the asset is not being traded, but the futures on it is being traded in Indian currency. It's not that easy to distinguish between an asset and a currency. And I understand why the Reserve Bank is being conservative on this thing.
Okay.
Even to say that it's an asset class. I quite appreciate what Ms. Sharma is saying, that, it's not legal at the moment. I mean, if somebody still, despite not being legal, wants to invest in it, wants to take a position, the government says, fine, I am taxing it. I'm not really looking at whether it's legal or illegal. I'm just simply looking at the taxability. Then that's fine. That's because people know that there's a warning and deal with it at your own risk. But as it gets popular, that's where the issue comes in. And that issue and that point that you raised about that we already are moving towards what is called a digital currency. And lots of people confuse that whether the digital currency that we're moving towards, the UPI umbrella, whether that is the same as crypto.
Okay.
And that difference has to be maintained.
Okay.
It's not the same. It's totally different. It's in a country where financial literacy is gradually picking up. This is very necessary, that the people's emerging belief in digital currency should not be sort of, caught in some problem regarding crypto.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, from looking at it from you and I, from our point of view, we'll say, I mean, how can that happen? But, impressions do happen. So it's a good idea at the moment, being conservative, and that's actually helping. Let the digital currency spread, let people's habits spread, let people get more comfortable dealing only in digital currency, which we need at this in this country.
Okay.
We can then deal with the crypto issue a bit later.
Okay. Ms. Sharma, that's a very important aspect which Shubho is referring to. In terms of RBI coming up with its own digital currency soon, perhaps, this financial year, we might see the pilot projects or maybe even the launch as well. And then we're talking about these other crypto assets as well. The distinction, one, from the common users or common man's point of view, how do we, explain it to people? That's one aspect. And two, when we're talking about regulation, what more does the central bank want when we're talking about regulation of this sector, or even this becoming an asset class?
Hey, let me be very clear that the digital currency float and regulation of the crypto is not sequential. They can run parallel as two distinct things. For the simple reason, the crypto investor population is increasing and across the globe. So if not from here, you have many of the exchanges who are making their headquarters across the geographical boundary of India with investors from India. So that is one problem. And coming to the second part, what you said, the RBI's concern is KYC, which under their self-regulation, now they are making it mandatory for KYC. Their concern is on anti-money laundering. That needs to be tightened as self-regulator without waiting for the regulation to come. All the crypto exchanges and stakeholders, or those who are doing the startups, they will have to sort of get into that self-discipline.
Okay.
And third, most important, which was also touched upon, is that if you invest in INR and then exchange it into a dollar across the globe from one exchange to other, which is possible and which happens, then the FEMA comes. So how it is going to operate, that clarity has to come up. So therefore, these two cannot work on sequential. It has to run parallel. Yes, the digital currency amendment in the RBI Act has to happen first as a first step so that they are able to get into a digital currency. Then their pilot comes, that entire system to iron and smoothen out is going to take a couple of years.
Okay.
Meanwhile, you have a crypto which is bouncing at maybe geometrical proportions across the globe.
Indeed.
You are expecting the US to come up with their policy very soon. So everybody is eyeing because there has to be some global agreement. One global agreement except El Salvador and to some extent Japan where they have considering it as a legal tender, crypto as a legal tender. But rest of the world is very, very clear that crypto is not, repeat, not a legal tender.
Okay.
So that is very clear. So the rest of the globe is working upon it, how the asset class is to be put. And this is an elephant which definitely the regulator wants it to be tamed so that they know exactly what is happening in this world.
Okay.
And that is how it is going to settle down.
Okay.
But
Okay.
again, I repeat, we cannot wait for one after the other. The regulation slowly has to come up. The taxation already, the finance ministry have said that 30% is something they will see, the TDS issue, they will have a look into it. So in the sense, the dialogue is on. So which is a very, very good sign. And in these dialogues, a little clarity has to come up so that, there is absolutely crypto as a separate asset class emerges in a more scientific, systematic, controlled way.
Okay.
So that you don't have problems tomorrow. And the KYC and AML are the concerns, which anyway are getting sorted out to considerable extent as on date. But let's see how it proceeds.
Okay, okay. Satvik, when it comes to regulation, two aspects which Ms. Sharma has referred to becomes really important. And we would like to understand how does industry, the crypto industry plans to address those concerns. One is about the KYC aspect. The other one is with money laundering. These are very significant aspects of the regulation part. And when we're talking about cryptos, of course, the blockchain technology is a very, very important element there. How can these two aspects be tackled while keeping the technology part intact there?
Yeah, so when we're looking at KYC part of the things, right? So we started our company in the year 2013, and since then, since day one, we have made sure that we are having the required KYC documents of every customer in place. And we also make sure that every transaction between the customer's bank to our bank is happening like bank-to-bank transaction and never in cash. So this makes sure that there is always a rupee trail between the bank accounts. It could be our bank accounts or it could be customer's bank account, and there is like no cash transactions happening. And this is nowadays the same with every other exchange as well. So whatever was the self-regulations that we wrote for ourselves in 2013 is now followed by the rest of the industry, and it's only getting improved. So this kind of adds up to the fact that the KYC documents are always preserved at two levels. One is at the exchange level, and then also at the bank level, because customers are using the bank accounts to the transaction. Like that's how they initiate the transaction. Okay, then when it comes to the AML related things, so anti-money laundering things as well. So which usually happens if the banks are not involved. And now the question eventually comes down: what if someone is using the blockchain technology itself to send and receive the cryptocurrencies? So anyway, the blockchain literally have the trials of what transaction was linked to what transaction. And even if something goes unnoticed today, as the technology improves, I believe such kind of transactions will eventually get caught out. And it's definitely a really bad idea to utilize blockchain for doing money laundering, because you're literally like leaving the evidence there and trying to do a crime. So I believe the technology addresses both of it. But as we have more regulations in place, this will just get more normalized, I think.
Okay. Shubhmoy, vis-a-vis regulation, and these are few aspects which Ms. Sharma referred to, Satvik responded to them. But what are the other challenges when we're talking about regulating this sector? And even if we are looking at from the perspective of cryptos being an asset class.
Well, I mean, essentially, if I look at, say, gold or oil or any other thing in which typically people invest in, an asset should have liquidity. So to the extent that cryptos is becoming expanding, I mean, more people are willing to stay with it, then obviously that liquidity will rise. And once it reaches a threshold level, or probably it has reached, sure, it'll be something which people will be using on. In which case, it'll be interesting to look at whether crypto is looked at as a commodity or whether it's a currency. If it's an asset, that question will have to be addressed at some stage. A currency and a commodity have a very distinct difference in terms of that treatment. So, which the world's traders would want to know, and everybody will want to know. So that's something that will have to be sorted out. The other part that will come through, which is very good, is that crypto is just one example of lots of technological change that's happening in the world of finance. It's really rocketing up. So you have got, just as crypto is happening, we are looking, I mean, there are the digital banks, there are the digital-only banks, there are the digital-only insurance companies. There's so many of those things that are happening in the world. It'll obviously be good chance now to allow a new integrated regulation for the securities market as well as for the currency markets to come in together. And I think that is very necessary to handle the sort of new challenges that these things are throwing up.
Okay. Quick concluding comments from both of you. Satvik, I'll start with you. What is it that the industry is looking forward to, or it wants from the government when we're talking about the regulation of this sector, and from the central bank as well? What are the expectations?
Yeah, see, right now what we have got so far is just the information from income tax part of you, right? So how much income tax should be paid. And obviously that happened in the budget speech. The budget speech is more about how the country makes money and how they spend it on the users. So that part is like quite clear. To some extent, I believe that more clarity will get added. But obviously, we don't have it from the legal standpoint of view, and that we will obviously need. And that is, I mean, that is kind of very required for the industry, because there are so many people, the big population, big set of population, youngsters, even technical people. Like as of today, a lot of them have considered leaving the country and setting up their business in other countries, just because the legal clarity is still not available here, and it only gets confusing every quarter by quarter. I think that is like one of the need of the hour, I guess. So they should come up with what they want to treat it as, so that the categorization is happening properly in place. And then we have confusions about the FEMA, then we have confusions about the GST. I mean, the confusions exist everywhere except the income tax today. So all those, when the regulation comes up, will kind of clear up. And when that happens, I believe we will be able to see much bigger growth in the industry itself, and there will be more people, including the institutional investors and even hedge funds and corporates, joining the bandwagon.
Okay.
Right? So
that
pretty much is what we will be expecting.
That's a very positive outlook Satvik has there, in terms of what the industry wants and what they expect. And of course, all these aspects will be cleared once the legislation which we were referring to is put in place by the government after wider consultations. One last question, Ms. Sharma. How soon can we see the digital currency, RBI's digital currency, floating around, and the pilot project per se? When does it begin? Is there a timeline we are looking at?
First of all, the amendment has to be approved by the Parliament to allow, in the RBI Act, to allow it to have a digital currency. Then other things flow. So you cannot put a strict timeline on this. And even China, which has floated the digital currency, are having some hiccups. So, it's like an evolving line which will undergo. So you can't set a timeline, but yes, once you start the engine, the beginning is made. And once you begin, then you roll down. So that is how it is going to be. But as has been rightly said by my co-panelists, the clarity has to equally come into other digital products, because digital products are going to expand across the globe.
Indeed.
And we cannot miss this, India being lagged behind, because we have a good, intelligent population in India, very savvy, even illiterate adopts. I was surprised to see rural villages adopting to crypto, at a ticket size of 5,000 rupees. So this kind of an emerging world, which is we are entering into, the clarity is the essence. So the more and more clear we come up, that is where we will have.
Indeed, we will have more clarity with time there as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Aruna Sharma, Satvik Vishwanath, as well as Shubhmoy Bhattacharjee, for sharing your views and insight. As our experts are pointing out, there are various aspects to the crypto question, and some of them seemingly have been answered. Lot more of them need a bit more clarity, and that will come not only with the legislation, with the regulation of this particular sector. And as our experts were pointing out, that this is a new revolution in digital technology, the bandwagon which we cannot afford to miss. But at the same time, we also cannot afford to lower our guard when it comes to internal security and other related issues as well. We'll come back again with a different topic. Till then, keep watching Sansad Television. Thank you so much.